Hi, this is going to be a short show because I'm probably at WBC right now if all the stars aligned. And it's actually my first US Game Con. And actually I haven't been to many here in Canada. And anyways, like I said, it's a short show. David Thompson is going to be featuring his Undaunted game. And I hope you enjoyed. I'll be back with much film and pics. Ciao. And Napoleon Returns 1815. Napoleon Returns 1815 is a strategic level campaign game on Waterloo. You guessed it. This is a 2 to 3 player game, plays in about 90 minutes. And what you get with this game is a huge hard-mounted game board, 50 battle cards, 16 core maneuver markers, 4 core unit boards, and a lot of fun. Legion War Games, your chance to change history. B-26, The Marauder Strikes, European Theater of Operations, July 1943 to May 1945. A game designed by Magnus Kimura. And what you get with this game is a 17 by 22 inch map, 278 counters, a 64-page rulebook, 42 pages of charts, player aids. This is a solitaire game. The map scale is non-available. Unit size is 1 plane. Time scale 1 mission. Complexity medium high.
Dave here. Welcome to the Centurions Review, the punk rock band of war game review institutions. This week on our website we'll be reviewing Raid on Iran from Steve Jackson Games. It's an old micro game about how the raid would have went off if the helicopter didn't crash and they didn't have to abort. It seems relevant with today's state of affairs in the Middle East. On our YouTube channel, we'll be doing a first look at Necromancer, also from Steve Jackson Games. Essentially in this game, 2 players are playing and each one is a necromancer and has a skeleton army and is trying to defeat the other necromancer. We'll take a look at it, see what the components look like and so forth. The next game we'll be doing a first look at is Somali Pirates from Modern War Magazine number 3. Essentially there's a coalition out to stop the Somali pirates and remove their bases from Somalia, whereas the pirates are just trying to survive and get victory points. Looks like a really interesting game. Hope to see you guys soon on our website and on our YouTube channel. Have a good evening.
Hey Dan, hey No Enemies Here Faithful. This is David Thompson coming back to talk about a new game of mine. This is a co-design. I designed it with Trevor Benjamin, and it's being published by Osprey. The name of the game is Undaunted Normandy. So this is a game that is squad level. Okay, it's a quick playing game. It uses deck building as a primary mechanism. So in this game, you take the role of a platoon leader, and you are obviously fighting in Normandy, right? So you're leading your platoon through Normandy, and specifically this game follows the actions of the 30th Infantry Division. I picked the 30th because that's the division that my grandfather was part of. So when I was designing this game, I traveled to Normandy a couple of times. So all of these scenarios, the 30th Infantry Division, they landed in Normandy D-Day +4. So it doesn't actually include the D-Day invasion, but it does include all of the typical locations you are familiar with if you know your Normandy history. So what it does is it follows the actions of everywhere the 30th ID went when they were in France, in Normandy. The game takes place there. So we have small villages at the beginning, a brief period where we have some impact from Operation Cobra, and then the campaign ends in the Battle of Mortain, which is probably what the 30th Infantry Division is most well known for, the key action, besides some of their actions in Battle of the Bulge maybe, but really the Battle of Mortain, which is a key counteroffensive that they defended pretty much by themselves, for the most part by themselves. So the game, very much inspired by history. I've got the scenario book here. You won't be able to see this, but each scenario, there's 12 scenarios in the book. It takes these modular double-sided boards, tiles, and it uses those to configure the terrain. So quite a bit of modularity here in the way the terrain is set up. But I will say that this game is not like a lot of skirmish level, man-to-man, or one counter equals a man level games. And what I mean by that is it's not really a simulationist game. This is really more focused on being a quick playing game where you use the deck building mechanisms to get down into the action quickly. And in some cases it might sacrifice some of the simulation for more elegance in gameplay, I guess you would say. So having said that, we went through great pains, in my opinion, to model the infantry platoon as closely as we could to the way you craft your deck. So what do I mean by that? So each side, the Americans and the Germans, each have a deck. It roughly models their platoon. So everything from having a platoon sergeant to 3 different squads. You are able to attach a mortar to the squad, and you can have a sniper in your squad. I actually said earlier, skirmish or man, one counter equals a man. That's an exaggeration. Actually, what we do here is we have the different elements of each squad represented on a token. So for the first squad, Squad A of the platoon, we have a token for riflemen, a token for scouts, and a token for machine gunners. So these tokens broadly represent the efficacy of that element of the squad. So this token generally represents the actions of all 5 riflemen that would have been in the squad. The scout would be the 2 scouts, and the machine gun token would be the machine gun team. In the game, each of those tokens correlates to the actual individuals. So one rifleman token in the squad would have 5 cards in the game, roughly. That's not always a one-to-one correlation, but usually that's what it is. So you can see in that regard, in some regards, from a card perspective, it is a single card equals a person, but on the board, that's abstracted down to elements of the squad level. So in each game, you're typically going to be going for one of 2 different objectives, depending on whether you're the US or whether you're the Germans. Those objectives can range, but oftentimes they're focused on controlling an area or trying to pin your enemy. And pinning means remove their tokens from the area, so combat. I'm not going to go into a lot of depth now from a gameplay perspective. I'm going to send Dan a different video where I dive into the gameplay. I mostly just wanted to give a high-level overview about the game. It's 2 players, plays in about 30 minutes to as long as an hour if you play one of the big scenarios with tons of guys, almost the entire platoon. I will talk just a little bit about, I'll go a little bit more into the deck building. And what I mean by that is, it doesn't work like a lot of deck builders, like your standard Dominion where we have a shared pool and we're pulling from it, obviously, because one side is the US, one side are the Germans with the 2 different players. Each player has their own deck. They have their own starting deck that usually is pretty small, just elements of the platoon. They have the supply, which are the elements that are available to them in the mission, and then they have their entire deck. And in most scenarios, you don't have the entire deck available. Maybe you don't have your sniper and mortar, maybe a squad or 2 is missing. It just really depends on the scenario. So in that regard, gameplay between the two sides is extremely asymmetric, just not in terms of the terrain and where you start on the board or the objectives, but actually the asymmetry in the deck composition. So because it's a deck builder, you'll be able to build the deck the way you want. So you might start out with elements of two different squads. You'll be able to focus on maybe heavily investing in scouts and riflemen, or maybe you want to invest in your machine gun team and make that the centerpiece of the squad and its action during the mission. So that's really what the deck building mechanism provides. I said before, it's fast playing. What I mean by that is it doesn't get bogged down in a ton of detail. It defers to just keeping things simple. So while you'll see terrain and some terrain impacts, you're not going to see tons of things like, you're not going to see a lot of detailed line of sight rules, extreme terrain effects, those kind of things. That's not what this game is. So it's, as I said before, it's really trying to get at being as elegant and streamlined as possible and getting into the action quick at the expense of more of the simulation. Okay, so that's all I'm going to cover in this video. I'll come back and I'll talk about some gameplay details later on. Thanks.
Big Games, Old School Tactical Volume 3, The Pacific Theater. The game includes 4 sheets of unit, weapon, vehicle, and condition counters, a large 30 by 41 inch mounted game map, 18 luck cards, 16 scenarios, player aid cards, color rulebook, of course dice, and a massive box and a lid. Avalon Digital and Blocks, Richard III, Block Wargaming on your PC and Mac. Richard III is a computer adaptation of the epic 2-player war game from Columbia Games that recreates the 15th century bloody dynastic struggle between the royal houses of Lancaster and York for the throne of England. They also have a demo that you can play. Check them out. Worthington Publishing, Stalingrad Besieged. This is a game designed by Dr. Lou Pulsifer. Stalingrad Besieged is a game that allows 1 to 2 players to refight the campaign for Stalingrad in 1942 in 3 different ways: cards, blocks, or counters. The game plays in less than an hour. And what you get with this game is a mounted game board, a deck of option cards, a full set of Russian unit large wooden blocks with labels, Russian unit cards, Russian unit oversized counters, German unit large wooden blocks with labels, and you know the drill, plus status cubes, dice, 2-player aids, and a rulebook. Academy Games and One Small Step lead the US and Soviet space agencies in their epic race to the moon in this engine-building, worker placement Eurogame. But Uwe, I spoke to Uwe, and he tells me that there are war game elements. It's the Cold War, man. You know what I'm saying? The Twilight Struggle, you know what I'm trying to say? Okay, so he guarantees me that if one side is losing, that you pick up the miniature satellites that are going to be there and you throw it at the other guy's head. Can't get more war game than that. And what you get with this game is a lot of stuff. I suggest you go on the Kickstarter website and check it out. And you're gonna see something that resembles meeples. They're not meeples. Uwe guaranteed me that they're not meeples. They're astronomicals. Astronomicals. That's what he said. And you know what? I believe Uwe. He's German. Germans don't lie. Matt White's Until the Bitter End, U.S. Airborne. This is a print and play Kickstarter. It's a second World War II solitaire and 2-player game that Matt does print and play. The game sets a small squad of American airborne against a German enemy in a series of small skirmish scenarios. Can anybody say narrative? The game comes with 10 US airborne infantry and 10 German infantry counters, 2 maps, and a full rulebook. Scenario book, plus all the stretch goals in this project. Harold on Games has a new podcast. Harold Buchanan interviews Consum World Expo creator John Krantz in podcast number 20. Okay, now I'm making this segment because, well, I got time. And it's a little bit out there, but it's connected. So, basically it's, which wargamer would you rather go into battle with? Now let's analyze this. I mean, working in psychiatry, I've learned a few things. Now, as Kevin Sharp would say, Dan, you don't know anything. You know what? He's right. He's right. And I know even less about battle and war. But, you know, in my Hollywood mind, let's analyze these two soldiers. And you ask yourself, who would you rather be protecting your 6 or your 12, whatever the case may be? Now let's take this guy. Let's call him Exhibit A, right? Or Soldier A. Let's analyze his physical and mental capabilities as far as I'm concerned, 20 years in psychiatry, right? So, firstly, he's unshaven. He's gruff. He's gruff and tough. Secondly, look at a ring there on his left hand, next to the pinky. Huh? I think that's an engineering ring. That means he's cold and hard. It's all about logic. It's all tactical. No emotion. A real machine. Plus, check out his hat. Patriotic. Right all the way. Huh? And look at those eyes. I don't know, looks like he's wearing eyeliner, but whatever. And now here, we have Exhibit B. Soldier B. Now, You might say, you've made up your mind. You know what this guy is. Not really. I mean, let's look at his eyes first of all. If you thought Exhibit A was cold, this guy, you know, to coin a foreigner phrase, this guy's cold as ice. Those eyes, they don't see anything, man. You know what I'm saying? He's blind, but he's there. Now, the bow tie, well, that's for distraction. Like Jerry Cheevers in Boston. He was a Boston goaltender. And he had a mask on, and he had scars on his mask. So as a player would advance or skate to him, he'd be distracted by all the marks on his face. You know what I'm saying? And the GI at the supply depot, Good Time Charlie. They call him Good Time Charlie because he knows all the alleyways in Vietnam and in Saigon. Eh? You know, in Good Time Charlie, he's been in battle with the Psycho CEO, Exhibit B. And he said there was machine gun nests everywhere. And Psycho CEO charges each machine gun nest one at a time. Here and there. I think there was 10 of them. Eh? Totally not caring about himself. Well, he doesn't have a heart. How can he care? Anyways, that's the guy you want in battle with you. Not the desk guy, you know, who's pushing pencils. You want Psycho CEO, man, because he's going to do the job for you. He's the guy who's going to get the Medal of Honor, and not even posthumously. This guy's going to outlive everybody. So that's who I'd rather be into battle with.